Hi, welcome to Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris.
And I'm Sharaad, Kuttan.
Today we're going to be looking at efforts to reform the Senate, or the upper house of Parliament, or better known as Dewan Negara to many of us. Now, joining us on the show, we have Senator Yusmadi Yusoff, who's chairman of the Senate Reform Working Committee. So the Senate Reform Working Committee is essentially a bipartisan initiative structured to improve and strengthen the upper house of Parliament. And the idea is to make sure that the Senate is a proper check and balance in terms of being a democratic institution. So welcome to the show, Senator.
Thank you, Melisa.
All right.
Okay,
so
let's let me begin if I can. The issue of the function of Dewan Negara, and maybe even perception, public perceptions of Dewan Negara. I don't even know if many Malaysians know it exists, how much it costs, and what value it brings to the parliamentary process. Could you help us? Since you're a senator, what's your experience been? Are people surprised when you say you're a senator?
Yeah. And I'm unique. I was in Dewan Rakyat, I was lower house. Now I'm the upper house, and the best person to tell you. Dewan Negara, or parliament, is just like a heart. You have two parts. How does to make the heart function? You need two parts to function. So can you imagine, people only know about the first part, not that we're silent about the second part. So that's what this reform is about. So for me, its role is to play as a revising body, a platform for influential discussions, and also to play a role as they call it like determining institutions of important legislations where you can delay certain legislation. It doesn't use the word veto.
Right.
So why I say this, because that was said in the Reid Commission, at least. The ideals of Dewan Negara was by design, because we know a certain country, they don't have a bicameral. They have unicameral. What does it mean? Unicameral mean like Singapore. They only have one house. In our case, we choose to have two houses. Must be with reason.
Right, but it wasn't modeled on the British upper house, which is the House of Lords. We don't have that institution, do we?
Otherwise, you have to call me Lord Yusmadi.
Oh, that's nice of you.
I will be permanently there, But unfortunately, yes, we did take the Westminster concept. But when it trickled down to our society or our landscape, political landscape, it been translated into our local context. For example, we are a federal state. Dewan Negara is supposed to be the voice of states, the voice of a strategic interest parties. Okay. For example, the disabled, you have the representative of
indigenous groups.
Indigenous group, Orang Siam.
Orang Siam, there's always been a Thai senator.
So of course the question is now, why you have Orang Siam, but you not even have Ibang Kadazan? Can you imagine? So all these questions for me is relevant in this 21st century, especially after the change of government. For example, states like Perlis, small state, you have two representatives.
Right.
States like Sabah, Sarawak, bigger, but you have two representatives.
In fact, they might now say they're not a state as the states of the Federation of Malaya.
But equal to.
They're territories. Yes. They have one or three territories.
So just to take the responsibility, that's why I think, at least my personal experience, I would like to see that Dewan Negara as a platform to unite, a platform to be the voice of the states. So in other words, by popular democracy, some people being elected, but some minority groups not elected.
Right.
But this is an opportunity to bring these people to the houses.
Just to interject there for a quick second, I mean, I like what you're saying. There are relevant questions that need to be asked or looked at in this day and age, but I think the really kind of the key consideration here is to address the perception that Dewan Negara is seen to be a rubber stamp. It's seen to be a way for politicians to get into parliamentary system through the back door.
Okay, I have to say the perception is partly correct.
Okay.
When I say partly correct, in the sense, of course, people are looking at, for the last 60 years, where are examples or instances where Dewan Negara really, put their strong decisions? Of course, none. But I have to say this, it happened in different way. Number one, for example, even before the change of government, you see SST was passed. We thought SST will never be passed because you have more numbers of Barisan Nasional senators.
Isn't that a financial law, though?
Yes, but
and Senate does not involve itself in financial laws.
What happened? We can delay it. But in the case of SST, it was not even delayed. It was unanimously agreed by all the senators. But you see different thing for fake news. All these things happen before the reform reports. So what I'm trying to say, we have to really understand what kind of parliamentary democracy that we want. Do we want the parliamentary democracy where Dewan Negara can stop legislation, or we want Dewan Negara just to be a revising body, rationalize what is good or get the priority right. Say, for example, yes, the law was passed, but I was there how the departure levy bill was argued. Frankly speaking, despite it was sponsored by my government, I was kind of persuaded by the argument by my learned friend. I know senator, most of them are learned. They are not like they are appointed because of sometimes they're professional, they're lawyers. So I said, actually, this guy has a good argument. Why? How can you promote tourism by imposing departure levy? And now we are talking about it. That departure levy is somehow not a right way to do blah, blah, blah. There's a backlash.
So there is a kind of effect. It is changing. Because coming out of this idea of a rubber stamp, there's also this perception that that people who are senators are given the position as a reward. It's a sinecure. Yeah. It's an old Roman term meaning you get money for nothing, basically. You know, but is that true, or is there a mixed bag within the Senate? In your experience, especially as a parliamentarian, did you ever find that you had good senators and not so great senators?
So I try to be diplomatic. Because earlier I was losing my hair because I'm working very hard. The day I joined, I moved the Dewan. Now we have a Senate Reform Working Committee, which is not, I can choose not to do it. Because there's no initiative. But I think it's my commitment because we promised Rakyat through the last election manifesto. What he said is partly correct. Because what happened now, you have two types of appointments. One is from the states. The states, normally, the party leader of the state will choose their candidates. Then those who are selected, normally, those who are closely associated with the leadership of the day. But at the same time, you have someone like, for example, orang asli, orang Siam. They are truly, at least what I see in Parliament now, they are at least the former Ketua Pengarah Jabatan Orang Asli, say, for example. There's one guy representing orang Siam. He's truly a leader of orang Siam. But, of course, when talk about democracy, what is democracy? Democracy is not about something happen in isolation. It must be a process. But where is the voice of consultation? Where is the voice of selection? So what you are saying is correct as well. So that's why this reform, among others, we also talk about how it was appointed for the last 60 years.
Right.
So we explore so many models. So the model that I find quite interesting is the one introduced by Trudeau in Canada, where you can have an independent advisory committee where anyone can apply. I met an independence lady from Canada, was a former badminton coach of Canada who came to Malaysia. I met her. She was very fantastic. She said, you know, Yusmadi, it's not easy for me to be this senator because I went through serious interview, serious vetting process. Okay. So now I'm elected. So,
okay, I want to ask you a very quick question. We go for the break. Just in 10 seconds, who won't want this? Who will resist change of Dewan Negara to become a truly democratic institution and value to parliamentary process?
For me, it starts with political will. So when I see there's no initiative by the last regime, I say there's no politically by the previous regime. So the current regime, at least they say it, they put in writing, then
in
they
the
want
manifesto,
to do it.
right?
Yeah. So now at least I just evaluate what at least I saw Anwar Ibrahim led the Dewan Rakyat parliamentary reform. So I lead the Senate reform. So we're supposed to join the committee soon. So what I'm trying to say is very much about the will of government of the day. And now, for me now, I've seen differently the will of the people.
Okay.
I am pushed by the people.
We're going to continue this conversation right here on Consider This. Make sure you stay tuned right here.